My name is Johann Gottlieb Säume. Some know me as the man who walked all the way to Syracuse. But today, I will walk a very different path with you. Imagine this. You're standing in a square in front of a church by an old wall. A small QR code, nothing more. And suddenly, history itself begins to speak to you. People from the past find their voice again. An innkeeper, a soldier, a child, a scholar. They talk about their lives, about fear and hope, about everyday routines and new beginnings, right at the very places where it all happened. History Talks turns streets, houses and squares into living storytellers. Short videos directly on your smartphone, available at any time. Join me on this new walk through time. It takes only one scan, and an entire world of stories opens up for you. Welcome to History Talks. If we are honest, we all know the problem. Classic information boards are often only skimmed, even at very important sites. Guided tours are wonderful, but they are limited in time and staff and only reach the people who happen to be there at that exact moment. At the same time, especially younger people today expect digital, short and emotional formats. They want content on their smartphone at their own pace. The result is, many fascinating stories remain invisible, even though the places are right there. It is exactly this gap that we want to close with History Talks. The basic idea is surprisingly simple. We place small, high-quality QR plaques at locations where history happened or becomes visible. Anyone passing by can scan the code with their smartphone and immediately gets a short video of about 60 to 120 seconds. In this video, a historical person or a carefully chosen character speaks directly from the site itself, explaining what happened here and why this place matters. History is no longer just printed on signs, it is spoken, heard and experienced emotionally. And this experience is available around the clock, with no additional staff required. So, how does this work in practice? It starts with selecting suitable locations: streets, squares, buildings and monuments, anywhere a story can be told. Then we develop fitting characters: historical figures, fictional witnesses, children, local citizens. On this basis, the short videos are produced as avatars, spoken narration, acted scenes, or a combination of these elements. On site, the QR plaques are mounted and linked to a stable platform, such as history-talks.eu or the local project website. Through usage statistics, we can later see how many views each station gets, at what times it is used, and what kind of feedback visitors give. One example is Katharina Schrempf from Tresa. She was imprisoned in the so-called Witches' Tower, accused of witchcraft and originally sentenced to be burned. Only because the citizens stood up for her, she was finally acquitted. A story of fear, arbitrariness, but also of civil courage. The local historical working group provided us with a figure representing Katharina. Step by step, this physical figure was turned into a digital avatar who now tells her story right at the original site.
I am Katharina Schrempf from Tresa. The tower behind me has stood for centuries, built in the late Middle Ages as part of the mighty town wall that was meant to keep enemies away. But what once promised protection later became a place of fear. In the year of our Lord 1609, I fell under suspicion. They accused me of thief-turning witchcraft and claimed I had been involved with 3 citizens who themselves were falsely charged with theft. Thus, idle talk became an accusation, and an accusation became a formal charge. They brought me here, into the witch tower. Behind these cold walls the air smelled of stone, of fear, and of fate. Only a small window allowed the light to enter. I waited for mercy or for the fire. Yet I remained steadfast. I spoke the truth, and one day they believed me. I was acquitted. So I lived, and with me lived the memory of the last witch trial in Treysa. When you stand before this old tower today, listen closely. Its stones tell of power and error, of guilt and of hope. I am Katharina Schrempf, and my voice still echoes from the tower of this town.
In the finished video, Katharina addresses visitors directly. She tells her story in the first person, about being accused, imprisoned in the tower, and about the relief when the death sentence is finally overturned. Facial expression, eye contact, and voice are designed to create the feeling of a personal conversation, as if Katharina were speaking to us from her own time. This sense of immediacy makes all the difference. People feel personally addressed, and the story stays with them. So who is actually speaking? We use personalities with a direct connection to a street name, a square, or a historical event, as well as typical representatives of a given era. They might be commanders, citizens, craftspeople, children, or fictional characters who stand in for many others. In some cases, we even let the place itself speak, the fortress, a gate, a museum. In this way, a lively ensemble of voices emerges, presenting the city from very different perspectives. One example is the painter Karl Banzer from the Schwein region, who of course can speak at the square that bears his name. Stories are told wherever people are already moving through the city, on squares, in churches, in museums and at historic buildings, but also along streets named after people, wherever the question arises, who was this person? We also include places of remembrance, monuments and memorial stones that many people usually only pass by. Thematic routes, for example about the Reformation, fortress history or the development of the town, can be enriched very effectively with these QR-based voices. The important point is, we do not replace existing offers like guided tours, museums or events. We add a meaningful new layer on top. History Talks is not only aimed at tourists and day visitors. Local residents also rediscover their own town when familiar places suddenly start to speak. Day visitors, groups, school classes and youth groups all get a low-threshold way into local history that fits into their everyday life. At the same time, the format is attractive for people interested in culture and history and for partners in the regional network. In this way, the project connects different target groups and generations through a shared medium, short, powerful stories. For cities, regions and partners, History Talks is a modern tool in city marketing and cultural work. It strengthens people's identification with their town and its history because they experience that their surroundings have something to say. Access is low threshold, short, understandable, emotional, and available at any time without extra staff. The content we produce can be reused in many ways, on websites, in social media, in educational formats or at events. And the concept is scalable, from a small pilot project with just a few stations up to a whole network of talking places. One major benefit lies in education and in the culture of remembrance. The clips can be used in school lessons, in project weeks, or in cooperation with local schools and confirmation groups. They provide ideal starting points for guided walks, museum work, and local history projects. Questions like, who lived here and what happened at this place, are answered in a concrete and personal way, rather than as abstract lines in a textbook. In this way, History Talks contributes to local remembrance culture and to democracy education by making biographies and life stories visible. Technically, the concept is deliberately kept simple. Visitors need nothing more than their own smartphone and a camera app or QR scanner. The videos are hosted on a stable platform or website, so there is no need to install any extra app. The plaques themselves are robust, weatherproof and of high quality, so they are clearly visible and last for many years. Of course, data protection requirements are fully respected, and the system is modular and expandable, with more languages, subtitles or accessible versions. We usually start with a small set of key locations that have particular impact. From there, the network can grow step by step, adding more stations, thematic routes and special anniversary sites. Different language versions, for example German and English at first, later more languages, open the offer to international guests. Events, markets and anniversaries can also be connected directly, for example with temporary QR stations. The key point is, the concept can be transferred to other towns and regions and grows along with local needs. Financially, the project consists of several building blocks: concept development, video production, technology, plaques and the web platform. Many municipalities and associations can access funding programs, for example rural development schemes, cultural funding or foundations. Additional support can come from the municipal culture budget. A particularly attractive option is sponsorship. Companies or institutions can adopt individual stations. This creates a one-time investment with long-term impact, because the content can be used for many years. The path to the first talking route can be divided into clear phases. In phase 1, we select the locations and develop the characters and scripts. In phase 2, the first videos are produced and the QR plaques are designed in parallel. Phase 3 is the installation on site, the public launch and the accompanying communication work. In phase 4, we evaluate usage and feedback and plan the next expansion steps. In realistic terms, within just a few months, a complete first route can be created, which can then grow further over time. To make sure the offer is actually used, good communication is essential. We rely on classic media work in newspapers. To make sure the offer is actually used, good communication is essential. We rely on classic media work in newspapers, on radio and online, and we complement this with short video excerpts on social media. QR codes appear in flyers, city maps and on websites and guide people to the stations. Guided tours and events are integrated as well, so that people can try out the stations directly during walks and group visits. A formal launch. So what is needed to get started? First of all, a basic decision. Do we really want to establish this format here and test it seriously? Then we need one key contact person or a small project group to coordinate the work internally. Together, we define the first locations and themes and begin in parallel to explore funding and financing options. Finally, we set a realistic timeline for the pilot phase and for an official launch date. From that point on, History Talks can grow step by step. In the end, the whole project can be summed up in a single sentence. One scan, one voice, one story. History Talks means places begin to speak when people are ready to listen. I would be delighted to explore with you how many voices your town or your region has to offer. Thank you very much for your interest.